You also have that guy who's a little bit more persistent and he's not going to quite listen, right? So we have what I like to call the kid stop, right? When the guy's coming up to reach and he's reached a couple of times, right? You just pop him on the top of the head. So today we're going to talk about shirt grabs. Shirt grabs. Shirt grabs are kind of cool because they're kind of redundant in the way of like they don't really pose that much of a threat. Where the shirt grabs are threatening is usually the other hand is not grabbing you. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the preventative stuff, and then we'll go into a little bit of once they actually have their hands on you. But stay tuned for that because I have a really fun tip that's going to help with understanding of shirt grabs. The cool thing is that when somebody's coming up to grab your shirt, usually it's going to be on like a straight line, whether it's one hand or whether it's two hands. So if I'm coming up with just one hand to try to grab your shirt, just a simple inside defense will kind of redirect this. And usually when somebody's grabbing their shirt, either it's going to be one of two things. Either they're trying to get your attention or something like that, maybe get a little bit handsy, or they're going to try to drag you off somewhere, or they're going to try to hit you. I know I said two and that's three. So when I go to grab your shirt and I'm coming on the straight line, just a simple inside defense could be enough. And obviously you want to use your verbal de-escalation of like, hey, don't touch me, or, you know, whatever. You almost let me touch you though. So she does that inside defense. She says something along the lines of like, stop touching me, right? Same with the other hand. If I'm coming with the other hand, you can come that way. If for some reason you actually reach up with this hand as I'm coming with this hand, no, this hand here, it still gives you the same thing that you're looking for, right? Which is to keep my hand off of you. So that's going to be your like softest solution. And sometimes if a guy doesn't really mean any harm or anything like that, that'll be enough. Be like, hey, what are you doing there, guy? Right? And they may apologize or whatever. You may not ever see them again because they're embarrassed, right? You also have that guy who's a little bit more persistent and he's not going to quite listen, right? So we have what I like to call the kid stop, right? And I'm going to let her do it and then, you know, I'll kind of explain it a little bit. So when the guy's coming up to reach and he's reached a couple of times, right, you just pop him on the top of the head. There's no blood, there's no knocking him out or anything like that. So we use that as a kid stop. And again, that's the next rise in the escalation of force to let them know that you're not messing around. And again, it could be on this hand, same side. It could be on this hand, opposite side, or it could be on this side, same side, right? But you want to get their attention, right? Now, the next step in the escalation of force on that one is going to be more of like you've tried to get him to stop, you've told him to stop, you may have already done the kid stop, this guy's not stopping, right? So you're going to have to do something a little bit more forceful to get his attention. And from there, I would do the same inside defense, and you can go with the punch. And punch is just, I mean, punch is just fine, especially if you're used to punching and stuff. But a lot of women aren't, right? A lot of men aren't. They like to think they are, but they're not, right? So when they come in, I would say just take that palm and take it right into their face. It gives the same amount of damage, right? But you're not going to injure yourself because you're not punching, right? Because you've thrown 3 punches in your entire life, right? And really all you do is once this is passed, you take that straight into their face, right? Now, if it's gotten to that point, I would say that immediately after, if you can, get away, right? Because this guy is obviously showing that he's not going to stop. And, you know, if you can get away, do that. If for some reason you can't get away, then you might have to follow up with more counterattacks. You might have to come in with a couple more hand strikes, maybe a kick. Depending on the guy, you might have to take his knee out. Who knows? But be prepared to do these things. You know what I mean? Now, the same thing applies for a two-handed shirt grab because essentially they're still going on the same line, right? And by deflecting one, you can deflect the other. Now, if this guy's super aggressive, you might actually have to move offline with your feet, like a full body movement. And with that, you can just use that reverse triangle. And really all you're doing is you're stepping towards the outside and it's putting you on the outside of that shoulder, which is giving you a much better position, right? Now from here, you can throw a couple of counterattacks. But the thing that I like most about this is that once I start moving my whole body offline, I have an open way to get out of here, right? Whereas if I'm staying just right here and I do have to follow up, I might have to, this might turn into a fist fight. And I'm trying to avoid that at all costs, right? So if I move my whole body out of the line, even with that counterattack, I can keep going. And that's the upside of that.
Yeah.
So as far as preventative goes, this works really well because you're keeping essentially you're keeping their hands off of you. And you have to have a certain amount of awareness for this. Now, sometimes you might find yourself in a situation where the hand is already on. And here's where I wanted you to stay around for. I love this. I love it when somebody grabs my shirt. And the reason being is because if somebody grabs my shirt, they can't use that hand, right? Except for holding on to my shirt, right? So for the sake of the microphone, I'm going to do all this to you.
Okay.
Because I have the expensive equipment and she doesn't. So when I get myself in this position right here, I've essentially taken one of my hands out of the game. You still have both of yours, right? Now, when somebody goes to grab your shirt, it could be an intimidation tactic, like you better fucking listen to me, right? It could be one of those things where I'm trying to grab her and drag her somewhere. It could also be one of those things where I'm trying to hold her so I can throw this punch in. It really depends on the intent. You may not be able to read that, but you can't act the same way on all of them, right? Once I go to grab this right here, you want to cover up with this side just in case I end up coming over with this strike. It's not going to hurt you if you put that there because you still have this hand here. Now, what you want to do with that is you want to start that counterattack immediately. It's gotten to the points where they're putting hands on you in an aggressive manner. You don't want to just let that slide. If you let that slide, who knows where it's going to stop. So once this comes on, she's going to put this up in case I come with this right here, and she's going to slap these shit out of me, right? It's going to be an open-handed, and it's coming all the way through. Now from here, bam, if she slaps me, chances are I'm going to let go. Men, have you ever been slapped by a woman with real intent? It hurts, right? So from here, she's going to slap. If for some reason I don't let go, she can follow up with many more counterattacks from there. Now, I know some people will teach you this. Grab me on this side so we don't mess up the mic. Some people will teach you this cool little turn the wrist and, you know, maneuver and all that kind of stuff.
Is it Krav, right?
Krav teaches you that. I've seen Tae Kwon Do teach you that. In my opinion, this is absolute and total bullshit because what I'm doing is I'm focusing down on this and I'm losing this. I'm losing this. I'm losing this. I'm losing this, right? So from here, I want to cover my head, right? Cover your head just in case this is coming. It may not come, just in case, right? And then take that hand, slap them. And then from there, if for some reason that doesn't do what you need it to do, be prepared to keep coming in with more and more counterattacks. All right, so now I want to kind of go over the double shirt grab. And this one is kind of like the last one, except so much better because instead of just marrying one of my hands, now I'm marrying both of them. And I'm also doing something else that's really, really stupid. And if the attacker knew this, he'd probably still do it because he's stupid. But he might hesitate a little bit. Now I'm coming in, right? That's going to play a lot into the intimidation. But it can also be like I'm trying to move her around or something like that. I love this. I love this. Not only are you taking your hands out, but you're putting yourself in the perfect range for me to hit you with everything I have. And I love that, right? So when I'm here, exactly, exactly. So the cool thing about the open-handed slap is, yeah, I can hit the jawline. I can hit the neck. One of the places that you can hit that's very, very disorienting is to cup that hand and put it right across that ear, right? And the cool thing about the double-handed from here is, bam, you take both of those ears at the same time. So from here, you can do the double-handed here, and then you can follow in with more counterattacks as you need, right? Depending on the situation. Another option is that from here, she can actually grab, so she can slap me in the ears from here, hold that grab, and drive the hard part of her head straight into my nose. And from here, you can do the single, grab the head, no, just with one hand, grab the back of the head, and drive that nose straight in. And then from here, you can use that other hand to follow up more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about What about like a body shot? No, not very effective.
I wouldn't start with that.
Okay.
I wouldn't start with that. It is a good target and it is open, but you get some of these guys who have like 12-pack abs, right? And you hit them in the body shot and it may work, it may not work.
Mm-hmm. What about fat guys?
Fat guys, probably not going to. They got a lot of cushion, man. Anyways, from here, I would start with the ear, do something to disorient them, and then I would go for there.
Okay, what about a hack?
A hack works really, really good. I would come across.
What do you mean?
Here you have a certain amount of force that you can put in. Oh. Coming from this side, you have a lot more structure and you can actually drive with that.
How do I get that if you're doing the...
So if you have me grabbed here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slap here and then I'm going to drive.
Okay.
So I'm going to, and essentially I'm putting you in the position where I want you. So from here, slap me with one hand. It doesn't matter which one. And then this one's going to be crossing over and then you're going to drive on that one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So one more time. And we're watching out for the microphone. So I'm going to slap and then I'm going to drive.
Okay.
Now, a cool thing off that hack is you can use the forearm blade, which is really, really good and it's really strong and I'm not going to hurt it on like bony areas. I can also use the hammer fist, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same from where I would go with the hack. It's the same exact motion using the meaty part of the hand. So to close this up, again, your awareness is going to be the biggest thing. If somebody's trying to come up and put themselves in a position to grab you, don't let them. If for some reason it happens, because sometimes it just happens, then again, you can do the preventative. If I do grab, cover your head in case, right? If I just so happen to be stupid enough to take both of my hands out of the equation, go to town. And the reason why we call this a kid stop is because when your kids are acting completely and totally nuts, right? You guys with kids, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you have to get their attention. And the best way to do that is to pop them right on the forehead, right? Doesn't have to be hard, but just enough to be like, I told you to stop, right?
He's kidding.
But kind of kidding.